What's going on, guys? Fluff here, and I thought I would do another how I mixed tutorial lesson thing. But this time we're going to use another Rob Scallon track. This one is the brand new Metal Mad Libs 6. There's a few reasons why I chose this song to do a how I mixed, because this is a good example of getting a vocal that you didn't track yourself. A. B. I think I pretty much nailed the guitar tone as far as what I wanted out of the song. And generally, it's just a good base to learn how to kind of mix some weird stuff, namely the kazoo solo that we're going to get into in just a minute. So here is the song. Here's how I have it all divided up. Now I'm using track stacks in Logic. Reaper has a similar function, and I'm sure the other DAWs do too. So I can basically expand and collapse my different tracks. And I can organize them and keep everything just really nice and neat. So here you will see I have my DIs, I have my left and right, and then I have my left and right reamps. And the guitars, the guitar tone, I achieved using my KSR Aries 50 watt head, boosted with a KDHK Ghoul Screamer overdrive into a 2 Notes Torpedo Studio. And this is what it sounds like on its own. So with the guitars, the guitars don't actually have that much. I have a little bit of EQ. I always tend to dip right around 270 hertz just because I don't like a lot of low mids. It gets real muddy too easily. I boosted the high end or the low end just a little bit, and I also high passed the low end at 90 hertz. Normally I'll play between 100 and 80, just depending on what the bass guitar is doing. I will normally dial in the bass guitar first before I go for a guitar tone, just because I like to have that foundation to work with, so I know when I'm going for reamping a guitar tone, and I'm choosing different amps, I kind of know fairly quickly what's going to work and what's not going to work. So here's the EQ for the bus, the guitar bus. Here's my summing, the summing bus for the Slate Virtual Mix Rack. I'm using the SSL G channel, basically simulation. And I am also using the same thing for the actual channels themselves. Now with the Slate stuff, you can simulate different channels going into a different mixer. For example, I could have two SSLs going into the Neve console or something like that, but I chose to keep them all uniform, which is normally what I do for guitar tones. And that was it for the guitar tone. Pretty straightforward and simple. Now, I just mentioned the bass. So the bass guitar tone, I will take a duplicate of the DI that Rob sends me, and I will start with the built-in Logic Ampeg amp, believe it or not. This is a preset of mine. I just call it Fluff Clean, and it sounds great out of the box. Now, I will duplicate that DI, and then I will also use something like 2 Tracks Easy Mix 2, and I will always normally go for the Devon Heavy Bass, which is just a fantastic sounding, distorted bass amp, but it's very full sounding. And when you combine those two, now, I always compress the crap out of the bass just to give it some more control and some general levelness throughout the mix. I set the threshold pretty high, usually minus 23, minus 25, something like that. I don't do any makeup gain. And I set the ratio pretty high because I want to be really aggressive at the bus with the bass guitar. So this way I can get it nice and level, and then I do some final EQing coming in. And in this case, I just kind of scooped out the mids a little bit. You can hear how it gets kind of flubby and kind of a little out of control in the low lows. And that's what I just use this EQ for, is just to clean everything up just a little bit more. One thing I've learned with bass guitar tones is you don't ever need as much low end as you think you do. That was a huge mistake I've been making for a really long time, is thinking, okay, it's the bass guitar, I have to have a huge amount of low end. No, actually you don't. You actually need a surprisingly low amount of low end in a bass guitar, because it's already inherently going to do its job really well without adding a ton of low end. Listen to like the intro for the Alice in Chains song Wood. That bass guitar tone at the intro doesn't have a ton of low end in it, but it's there, it's present, and it's beefy, but it's not boomy at all. And that's what I'm really trying to go for lately, to kind of tighten everything up. Now, that's the bass, that's the guitar. Now, the drums are my regular preset that I use. It's a metal preset. I've actually recently gone to a different kick drum, but we'll get into that in a later episode. Just the drums alone sound like this. Rob really likes that drum tone, and I tend to use that specific kit on his stuff that I mix when he gives me the MIDI that Nick Pierce from Unearth programs for Rob. And it just has some basic auxiliary verbs, and I've gone over that stuff before. You can also download that preset on my website, blackmetalbicycle.com, for free if you're interested in checking it out for yourself. Now, there's a crowd for the vocals. There's a talking part in the middle. There's a crowd shout, and then there's two main tracks for the vocals. Now, with the vocals, and that it's Metal Mad Lib 6, and it's the Mad Lib premise is they're just taking different phrases that people have commented on, and they're putting it into a cohesive song. Eddie, I don't know what he uses. I don't know anything about his setup or his microphone setup, or if he's hitting it with a compressor on the way in. I don't think he's hitting it too hard. I think it looks like, judging by the waves, he's hitting it with something. But you get a lot of unevenness in the levels because he's reading the line and then doing the line, recording it, stopping, getting the next line. He's doing it piece by piece when he's actually tracking the song. So that will give you an inherent unevenness in a lot of the tracks, as opposed to having a nice long vocal chain. And even then, just because of the words are really kind of so different from each other, you're going to get a lot of variance in levels. For example, if you notice here in the beginning,
do we really need any more? Maybe.
So that kind of stuff, he goes from screaming to kind of whispering, and it gets very difficult to kind of just universally throw something on it. So you really have to kind of massage it a little bit. So here's how I do it in the main vocal. So we're gonna divide this into two parts. We have the main vocal, obviously, and then we have a lower kind of, it's a doubled effect. Now with the doubled effect, I will compress it. And in this particular case, I actually added some stereo spread to give it some width only on the doubled parts. Now this is still going to the main vocal bus. Both of these are. But I chose to do that so it wouldn't be so mono sounding. It would kind of get big for a second and then pull back in into the center. So for the main vocal, I compressed it. We're actually not hitting it super hard.
We're no strangers to love. I had a pretty sick lyric, but I forget it. This should make you too great again. I know my generic me gets in. I miss.
So at times it's hitting it pretty hard, but generally speaking, it's not hitting it super, super hard. So I will compress it just a little bit. And because I want to gain stage correctly, I am then going to go over to my main bus, my main vocal bus, and I'm going to open up Virtual Mix Rack from Slate. And I have a Neve EQ. I actually then come in with an SSL EQ just to give it a little bit more. It's the SSL stuff is a little bit more precise than the Neve stuff. And then I actually added quite a bit of top end saturation to Eddie's vocal because he's a very warm vocalist and there's a lot of low end to his voice and it can get kind of boomy. So I didn't really feel like I needed to add any thickness, so I just added some shimmer to come in behind it. I have a basic male de-esser just because of the way he's enunciating and the different various lyrics. I just like to come in and clean it up with a de-esser from Waves. Now we're going to get it loud to get it actually properly, adequately loud for the mix. We're going to come in with a Waves L1 and Ultra Maximizer. And this is where we really start to crush the vocal. So without it, it sounds like this.
We're no strangers to love. I had a pretty sick lyric, but I forget it. This should make YouTube great again. I know my generic me gets in. I miss the old Rob Scallons. Don't ever talk to me or my son again. Fake nation. But why? Friends are like potatoes. If you eat them, they die.
So with the L1, this is where it's doing the bulk of the work. It's doing the heavy lifting, as you will, with the vocals, making it nice and level, and just I'm crushing it like I need to because of the style of vocal and the aggressive music, but that will still not get it level with the mix. And for that, I used Waves Vocal Writer, and then I automated and fine-tuned its automation to kind of ride the mix as needed. And it's quite a bit of automation that I ended up doing, but you can get the vocal writer to write the automation for you. It'll basically analyze and just kind of have a certain ratio of loudness to the rest of the mix, but then you have to go back in and fix a bunch of stuff for different various vocal things, as to be expected. But the vocal writer will get you 80 to 90% there. But I did the entire intro by hand, just writing the volume and then drawing in the different automation volumes. So without the vocal writer, here's what it sounds like.
Strangers to love. I had a pretty sick lyric, but I forget it. This should make YouTube great again. I know my generic me gets in.
So you can already see the vocal writer working very subtly, but when you get into things like the really loud parts, I'm going to find a loud part here. You can see it really dip.
Hey, it's in New Ghost.
It's just a prank, bro. Get pranked or get spanked. It's your choice.
So then for the quiet parts, obviously the vocal writer is going much higher in volume, and I've set the threshold and played with it a bunch. But if you are having trouble leveling out your vocals, I highly recommend the Waves Vocal Writer. It's a really cool tool, and they also make a bass writer as well, but I have not used it. But for vocals, that's the chain. I have Bust for some room in the mix. I have Bust over, and I'm using my tried and true Valhalla Room plugin to give it some room. And let's A/B that.
To love. I had a pretty sick lyric, but I forget it. This should make YouTube great again. I know my generic me gets in. I miss the old Rob Scallons. Don't ever talk to me or my son again.
So with the Valhalla, it's kind of a short vocal slap thing. I started out with the preset that was built into the plugin and kind of modified it a little bit and gave it a little tiny bit more decay than what was normally, that normally comes with it. But other than that, I really didn't mess with it too much. I have it saved as a preset, it's the Fluff Vocal Cut for the Valhalla Room plugin, and I use it quite a bit on different vocal cut stuff, just because it kind of emulates a 90s feel for me. I don't know why it reminds me of something that would have been done in the 90s, but it works nonetheless, as opposed to something like a delay, which you can also do, but it really depends on how fast the song is and how fast paced the vocal is. So if it's something really fast like this, the delays are just going to get lost, and it's just kind of going to get really stuffy in the vocal, which is why I didn't go with the delay. But it's like a shorter song, or a slower song, excuse me, I would do something like use a delay for that kind of thing. And the talking parts are just kind of meant to be an exaggeration on the line.
It's just a prank, bro. I mean, come on, just get pranked or get spanked. It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank, bro.
And for that, I basically just copied the vocal chain that I did for the main vocal for consistency. I am comping just one part at the very end, but otherwise I'm not compressing on the individual tracks. Let's see,
My second car is also a car.
And I put that in the talking part. That was originally part of the main vocal track, and I didn't think it really belonged there, so I put it down with the talking stuff so I could process that adequately. Now, there is a crowd. It's more of it's just a shouty kind of a thing.
Someplace nice!
So there's 3 tracks. I went left, right, and center. And again, I copied the basic signal chain. On the center vocal, I used a stereo spread. I did not do that with the left or right. Now for the bus, the main bus, I actually didn't end up using anything. I left the plugin on, but I didn't actually use anything in it. I took it all out because I just liked how it sounded by itself, since it's a pretty simple part and it's not really doing much. I didn't have to do anything really to it. I did come in with the L1 and I still de-essed it, but as far as the need for the SSL processing, I really didn't feel the need to do it, so I didn't.
Someplace nice!
So for the kazoo solo, I left it by itself, and first I came in with a compressor. We're going to turn all this stuff off. So for the kazoo solo, I am crushing the crap out of it because I had to get it to cut with huge metal guitars. And then I sent it to I treated it as a vocal basically, and still sent it to the reverb. So with the mix, you get this.
Kazoo solo! This love!
My second car is also a car. That's my voice.
Limits are my good! Metallica was an inside job!
And that was basically the Metal Mad Lib 6 mix. Now I'm coming in on the master bus. I have a fab filter. This is basically my mix bus preset that I usually slap on towards the end of a mix. And this is a multi-band compressor, and this is keeping things nice and tidy in the low end for me.
Limits are my good! Metallica was an inside job!
And then after that, I'm coming in with the Slate FGX for mastering and just exporting it straight out of the DAW here.
Limits are my
Now when I'm mixing, I'm actually mixing pretty quietly.
my god! Metallica was an inside job! I need some money! Friend just writing poetry! This statement is false! My name is Death! It's like the clock of this different and just to the top, it's at best!
I like FGX a lot because it's really, really transparent, but that is basically it. I set the ins and outs and then bounce it on out and send it to Rob. And that is how I did Metal Mad Libs 6. If you have another suggestion for a future How I Mixed, please leave them down below and let's try to get to some more pretty soon. You've been wonderful. I've been Flav. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.